Hi, I'm Steve. Welcome to my shop. In this video, I'm going to cover scrap wood to gifts. It's getting about that time of year. I'm overwhelmed with offcut or scrap material, and I'd like to throw out 5 gift ideas for scrap wood to gifts. So let's get to the first one. Okay, so the first idea I've got from scrap wood to gifts are making cheese slicers. Now, I had a lot of stock that was wide, but not wide enough for these cheese slicers. So what I ended up doing was selecting some scraps of contrasting woods. This is bubinga with curly maple, and this is walnut with maple. And I just sliced it down, jointed it, hand planed it, glued them together, then sized these panels. The next step after that, now I'll leave a clip of video of how I rounded over these corners. I rounded over all the corners. I did that on a router table with, it looks like a 1/4 inch or 3/8 inch round over bit. And after I did that, before I cut any of the slots for the cheese slicing wire or the hole, to avoid little divots as the guide bearing rolls around, which you'll run into that, you want to cut these roundovers. The next thing I did was drill the holes for this, for the cheese slicer arm. That requires a 1/4 inch hole, and I'll leave a clip of how I did that, but basically just make you a shop-made jig. This is also how to scrap, and I just drilled a 1/4 inch pilot hole as a guide, and material that now looks like it's about 1 1/4 inch, 1 1/8 inch wide material, and that just kept the drill bit straight as I went through that. I didn't want it wandering all over the place. Be sure you pull that drill bit out periodically after a bit just to clear the chips, because I used a 12 inch long bit to do that. And I don't remember the depth of this, but it was just shy of 4 inches. Okay, to cut the slot, this is a thin kerf cut. I looked at the kerf on the blades I had from my table saw, and the 1/8 inch or 3.2 millimeter kerf was just too wide, in my opinion, for this fine wire. So what I ended up doing was using the miter saw, which has a trenching function on it, and I just kind of propped up one end of this and adjusted the saw such that it basically made a ramped cut. Now the saw, because of that, I didn't go all the way through on the back side, so on the bottom there's a little arc there, which happens to coincide with where that hole is. So things to watch out for there is, obviously you don't want to cut all the way through or thin. On one of the pieces I made, it got a little thin right down in here, but I think it'll be okay. There's enough support on that side and that side where that won't be a problem. But you need to provide clearance for this wire, because that bar has to go through it, and it worked out well. The hardware I got from Cheese Slicing LLC, no affiliation. I'll leave a link in the description to where I got that material. And the rubber feet, I purchased those from US Rubber Feet. And the screws I used were 1/2 inch or number 6 by 1/2 stainless steel truss head screws, and I just screwed those in place. Because I had so many of them to do, I made this little jig here with a 7/64 pilot hole, and I'll leave a clip to the video of how I did that. Screwed these screws into place, assembled it. I did finish these with a mixture of beeswax and mineral oil, and it turned out pretty well. So that's gift idea number 1. Okay, my next suggestion for scrap wood to gift, number 2, is the serving tray or cracker tray. And this is out of cherry that's roughly 3/4 inch thick, and or 20 millimeters, somewhere around there. And I did this on the CNC, and it just made quick work of the cutout and cutting these pockets. But you don't have to have a CNC to do this. You could draw up your own design, use a bowl bit and your router and just clear this area out, profile this, and sand the edges, round them over, and it turned out quite nicely. This curved handle, I was surprised because I do have left-handed members of my family, and so I'm right-handed, so this fits comfortably this way. But surprisingly enough, it also fit comfortably holding in the left hand. So this is scrap wood to gift idea number 2, the cracker or charcuterie tray. So scrap wood to gift idea number 3 are business card holders. And I had some 6mm thick African mahogany or kaya by about 1 inch tall. And I had some scraps of figured English sycamore. Let me get a better close up here. I'll show you a clip of how I did this. But this was actually too thin to use what I would normally use for miter joint construction, which is the Hoffman MU benchtop machine. It would have just, this material was just too thin for the smallest material. So I ended up using this, just using a more conventional method and gluing this together with painter's tape. It worked out pretty well. And then I clamped this in my tailstock vise, took a saw with a kerf of the veneer thickness, and I had to try several. So what veneer you use and what saw you use if you choose to do this, this is very easy to do. I would do 2 different things on this. I tried 2 different things with tape wrapped all the way around it. I did the CA glue, and that CA glue, it was the thin stuff. It wicked in here pretty nicely, but it also wicked under the tape, and it made removing that tape miserable. So then I switched over to the Tight Bond Speed Set glue, and it was difficult because it swells the wood. It just made these difficult to put in, which I did that on most of them. But in any event, I think in the future what I would do is pull the tape off after this glue is cured and insert the veneers keys and then wick the thin CA glue in that in the future. But I designed this box such that you could take, it would hold an individual card down to 1 card or a whole stack of cards. And this worked out pretty well. So these are just the various vendors that I use. I just keep this in my shop, and the rest of them will end up being gifts. But this is a business card holder. So that is scrap wood to gift idea number 3. Okay, scrap wood to gift idea number 4. This actually has a number of variants. And I'll call these tea light holders because these little lights are tea lights. And a lot of this has so many variants because it is highly dependent upon the size, thickness, and amount of material you have. So this was fairly narrow material but was thick and long. So I cut these out on the CNC, but you don't have to do that. A drill press with a Forster bit, a table saw fixture to cut these tea lights out. Hole goes just deep. This is sits just proud, so you can pull this out easily. And I also used my wife's Cricut, or actually I should better say my wife used her Cricut to take my file and cut these felt pads, self-adhesive felt pads on the bottom. And that worked out really well. The hexagonal tea light holders, another variant of that is this tea light holder. This particular piece, this one had a nice pith running right down the middle of a short piece of board, And I just made this. I made some feet. I angled the edges here and cut a dado to hold these feet, and the feet were shaped using the bandsaw and sander. And let me pull these out and I'll show you the bottom. And I always like to put the felt pads here, and I make these felt pads because I never can find the right size or color that I want. I use a gasket punch and buy a 9x12 sheet of self-stick felt. I get that at Hobby Lobby here locally. You get them the right time of year and get them half off. So, after I cut these out, I sanded these, just glued them in place. So that is variant number 2. And variant number 3, I need to move this around to get them in stock, is that if your material is larger, you can make a votive candle holder. And I purchased, I guess, half a gross of these a number of years ago. This was done before I had the CNC, so I just cut this out, finished it up on the router table in similar construction. The feet are obviously larger, and actually I built this in 2013, so this is 9 years old right now. And I think I used a router to clean this out. Had a template that I made. So, and this is out of cedar with ash for the feet. And what I found out is there's times that we all go through where you get friends and family getting married, and I made a bunch of these and gave them away as wedding gifts, and everybody loved them. So this is variant number 3 of the candle holder. So I'm going to move this to the side and let's get to the next one. Okay, scrapwood, the gift idea number 5 is, I'll call this a wine caddy. Now I did these on the CNC, but you don't have to do that. Some drill bits, these I think were 1 1/4, this is 1 1/2, 1 1/4 here. You could bandsaw that out. And this is 12 millimeter thick stock, which is just under 1/2 inch. I tested this out. This was my test version. It turned out nicely. This is sapele, and it holds the wine glasses nicely and fits over the top of a wine bottle. And if you have a CNC, it's helpful if you do something like this, kind of personalize it. Same basic design. This material was 15.5 millimeters thick, which is right around 5/8 of an inch. And I just found some artwork. I ended up doing this not on the CNC, but I did it on a handheld CNC, the Shaper Origin. I've been playing around with that and trying to learn that machine. But anyway, this turned out nice, except for a little boo-boo down here where I got a little divot. And the material, I started out with 13-inch long material. This design is just under 12 inches, and the width was 4.5, and I ended up, my design called for a 4-inch wide piece here. But that's scrapwood, the gift idea number 5. So anyway, those are my 5 ideas for scrapwood to gift projects, and let me know if you got any questions or comments, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you for watching. Okay, the forensic report's in. Looks like the nails angled and really did not engage the spoil board very robustly.